Back, boxing fans. It's always funny to listen to John Boxing literally come out with his racially charged videos, deflecting consistently after he listens to my videos, right? It's ironic. Like literally today, we're talking about Tank Davis, who I have on my pound for pound list, even though many people in my chat feel he doesn't deserve to be in the top 10 pound for pound rankings. I justified his ranking on my list the same way I would justify a Gennady Golovkin, right? Guys that haven't quite fought the elite level of opposition that people are hoping that they will fight. But against the people they have fought, they've been dominating and destructive in their victories, right? That's why he is on my list. But of course, if he wants to become one of the top 5 and elite fighters on that list, he needs to unify and fight pound for pound competition. What does John do? What he always does, he deflects, right? He's the one who calls all these fans racial and racially divided, yet he's the one that always brings up the racial disparity, right? He can't use a black boxer to try to justify why Tank Davis is not getting ranked higher on a pound for pound list. What he needs to do, of course, is deflect to a non-black fighter, right? As if he's trying to show some double standard. Yet then again, he's trying to group every single boxing fan into this narrative. Yet he only sees it one way. That's the problem with John. He's consistently only seen things one way because he's got these blinders on where black YouTube channels can say and do whatever they want. Most of the people hating on Tank Davis happen to be LDBC fans, right, who are pro-Haney and anti-Tank Davis, the same way most of the people who hate on Bud Crawford were PBC fans, pro-Errol Spence fans. Yet he ignores that for the most part and acts like that's not the issue. It's all these racially divided people that are actually doing it. But the people consistently making videos about Tank Davis and Errol Spence and Devin Haney consistently are still all black channels for the most part. Other people, of course, talk about these fighters when they're being talked about as a potential matchup or they have a fight scheduled or something of that nature. But they don't literally make videos day after day after day after day, day after day, clout chasing off of these few fighters they know that will get views on their YouTube channel, right? Like, when was the last time I even made a video about Devin Haney? Because up until this point, Devin Haney's been irrelevant, just like Ryan Garcia. Both of them have been sitting out for the past year, so it hasn't really been anything even worth talking about. So you haven't seen me making videos clout chasing off of either one of those two fighters. Tio, same thing. With most of these 3 fighters, it's mostly about what they're not doing, not as opposed to what they are doing. So they're not even really that interesting to talk about. But today we talked about all kinds of, obviously, conversations about the fights that are being speculated through Turkey Al-Sheikh. We also talked about Ring Magazine's pound for pound list. See, and once again, this always comes down with John about black fighters not being ranked higher above non-black fighters. Of course, we know John has Bud Crawford pound for pound number 1. He would have Devin Haney number 2 and Tank Davis number 3 if he could justify it, but he can't, so he doesn't. But hold on, I'm sure he'll find a way to do it. But but today he comes out with this video, and of course he does what? He fucking claptraps towards Junto Nakatani. Literally, Junto Nakatani is ranked 10, 9, maybe 8 on people's lists. He's on the bottom of pound for pound lists because at this point of his career, what has he done? He's become a 3-weight world champion, something Tank Davis hasn't done. Tank Davis is a 2-weight world champion. He's never won a legitimate title at 140 pounds, right? And he was just elevated at 135. Prior to that, he never won a title at 135 either, right? The only legitimate titles he had were at 130 pounds. Now he's a 2-weight world champion. Junto happens to be a 3-weight world champion who's 4-5 years younger than him, yet already did more in the sport of boxing than Tank Davis has. And he's being criticized because people have him on a pound for pound list, even though the same people who got Junto Nakatani on their pound for pound list, like me, have Tank Davis ranked above Junto. So, it's ironic that he pushes this kind of bullshit deflection when it only exposes him, right? That's all it's doing is exposing him. Junta Nakatani is chasing a pound-for-pound opponent in Inui the Monster. What pound-for-pound opponent is Tank Davis fighting, or even trying to fight, or talking about fighting? You tell me. Because don't say Loma, because Loma's not on people's pound-for-pound list now, so he's not a pound-for-pound fighter currently. Shakur is not really a pound-for-pound fighter currently on a lot of people's lists. Tio is not really always consistently on people's pound-for-pound lists either. And based on Devin Haney's poor performance against Ryan Garcia, even he is not really on some people's pound-for-pound list. So, and the irony is Tank Davis ain't chasing any of those fighters. He's chasing a pro box fighter on pay-per-view. You know, I can guarantee you in 2025, Junta Nakatani is going to unify titles at bantamweight, something that Tank Davis still hasn't done in his career. 30 years old, never attempted to unify titles. I just asked John this question on his video. What 135-pound champion has Tank Davis beat? Right? Tank Davis has been at 135 pounds probably as long as he was at 130. He never unified at 130, even though he could have. He could have unified after Lomachenko moved up. He could have unified with Lomachenko. He didn't. Even afterwards, he didn't. And then, of course, now he's at 135, and he hasn't even beat a champion to win a title. To win that 135-pound WBA title, he didn't win the title. He was elevated, right? Literally elevated because Devin Haney dropped the titles. Tank Davis has done nothing meaningful at 135 pounds, but you're going to claptrap and act like people are being disrespectful and racially charged because they don't give him the respect he deserves. But this is John Boxing, a guy who spent the majority of his career hating on Roman Gonzalez, a 4-weight world champion who fought in unification fights. A guy who consistently had hated on fucking Lomachenko. The only time he said good things about Lomachenko was after Devin Haney beat him. So he could use that to put Devin Haney into the top 3 on his pound-for-pound list. Right? A guy who used Inui as his favorite fighter only to shit on Roman Gonzalez. To what? Turn his back on Inui and now disrespect him as much as he can. A guy who consistently shit all over Gennady Golovkin, yet praised Deontay Wilder. A guy who's not even nearly as accomplished as Golovkin. Golovkin, who's a 2-time middleweight champion and was unified both times. Deontay Wilder is a 1-time world champion who never attempted to unify titles. Ever. Kind of like Gervonta Tank Davis. The one thing we can give Errol Spence praise for is that he did try to unify, right? And even tried for undisputed. Wasn't successful, but at least he tried that. He was going for that. He was trying to beat all the other champions in the division, kind of like what Lomachenko was doing, like what Devin Haney did, like what Canelo Alvarez has done, like what many pound-for-pound fighters actually have done. If we currently look at really the majority of pound-for-pound fighters, let's just break this down quick, because I know John is slow. Mentally, he says he went to college, but I don't know what fucking college he went to, because the way this guy fucking talks, it doesn't look like English was one of the primary classes that he took, but we'll go through it. So you can have whoever you want number 1, but currently I have Usyk number 1 because he literally just fought a guy 50 pounds bigger than him, something no other pound-for-pound top 10 fighter has ever done and probably will never do. But Usyk is number 1. Usyk, who's a 2-weight undisputed world champion. And number 2, I have Bud Crawford, who literally is a 3-weight champion, undisputed in 2 divisions. That means in 2 of his divisions, he's become not only unified, but undisputed. Just like Usyk, who in the 2 divisions he's been a champion, was undisputed both times. Then you get to Inui. Inui, who's a 4-weight world champion and undisputed in 2 weight divisions, right? Super impressive. Better Biev, who's number 4 on my list. He is an undisputed 175-pound champion. He beat all the best guys in the division. He unified, literally taking on the biggest, baddest motherfuckers at the division, right? And now in his next fight, he's going to rematch Dmitry Bivol again, right? Talking about what level of opponent he's fighting. Then at number 5, you put Canelo Alvarez there. Canelo Alvarez, who is a 4-weight world champion, 1 weight undisputed. He's been unified in 3 divisions: 154, 160, 168. Obviously, he never unified titles at 175 pounds, but he may in the future, right? We'll have to wait and tune in to see if he actually does that. So that's the top 5 fighters on the pound for pound list, all undisputed, all multiple weight world champions except for Better BF, and obviously guys who fought the best fighters in their division, proving they were the best. Then you get to number 6, you throw in a guy like who? Bivol or Bam, whoever you want. You could throw either one, that's fine. But I'll say Bam Rodriguez. Bam Rodriguez, who currently is a 2-weight world champion. He's a 2-time Superfly champion. And obviously, beat the best fighters in the division for the most part. And was a unified champion at 115 pounds. So even he unified. He's only a champion in 2 divisions, but mind you, he is far younger than every other fighter so far mentioned on this pound for pound list. Then Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri Bivol obviously never unified. He failed in his unification attempt, losing a very close, somewhat controversial loss to Better BF. Is a 1-weight world champion, but does have a win against the pound for pound number 1 fighter at the time in Canelo Alvarez, right? Which is pretty impressive. Beat Zurdo's ass, and Zurdo just literally went to cruiserweight to become a 2-weight world champion. If Zurdo could have beat Bivol, he would currently be a 3-weight champion. Zurdo, who's currently unified at cruiserweight, right? So that's the top 6. And then you have Tank Davis on my list, probably at number 7. 6 or 7, depending on where you want to put him. Here's a guy who's a 2-weight world champion, has never unified, has never fought a pound for pound top fighter. The best opponent on his resume is the first guy he beat in Pedraza. Then you could say Leo Santa Cruz was quality, except Leo never did anything at 130 pounds. So you fought a guy for a bullshit title that was really your belt that you dropped, only to go back down to win again against a guy who literally has never done anything significant at that weight. And after that fight, has still not done anything significant at that weight, right? Virtually retired that Leo Santa Cruz. And then, of course, Ryan Garcia, a social media fighter who's never been a world champion and probably never will. Those are the cream of the crop fighters that Tank Davis has fought. Right. And then you could throw Devin Haney on that list, a 2-weight champion, obviously undisputed at 135 pounds, beat guys like Lomachenko, obviously Regis Prograis, so beat legitimate opponents, unified titles at 135 pounds, and obviously beat Lomachenko to solidify himself for the undisputed champion. Then you can have Shakur on that list. Shakur, who's a 3-weight world champion. 3-weight, legitimate. And a unified champion at 130 pounds. Something Tank Davis never did. Shakur did. And Shakur is obviously younger than Tank Davis. Then you get Junto Nakatani, a 3-weight world champion who at this point has never unified yet. So similar to Bivol, similar to Tank, right? This has nothing to do with race. This has everything to do with what the fuck you've done in the ring. But of course, John wants to make this always about race because that's how fucking fundamentally fucked up he is, right? Black privilege runs deep through this guy's veins. And it's unfortunate because he is so fucking deluded with the message he consistently pushes. He can't enjoy the sport of boxing. With him, it's always on the attack or on the defense. Saudi Arabia can set up all these beautiful fights. Bud Crawford's in a great super fight. He's moaning and groaning about it, right? Devin Haney's being set up for a great fucking potential matchups at 147 pounds that will solidify his greatness if he's able to win those fights. But yet, that's not what he's worried about, right? Shakur getting opportunities to make big fights, but he doesn't care about that. That's not significant, right? These are Black American fighters who have more opportunity in front of them now than they've ever had in their careers. But he's not happy about that. He's not celebrating that. What he's trying to do is deflect and fucking play the victim. Play the victim. All to do what? Try to fucking justify Tank Davis's existence. Tank Davis, who basically has told all his fans, go fuck yourselves. I don't care what you fucking want because I ain't giving you nothing. Similar to what Floyd Mayweather once said as well, right? Tank Davis is saying the same thing. He's in it for money, not legacy. He's going to retire at the end of 2025. He doesn't give a fuck what any of these people want. He's going to do what he wants. Is that your role model? Is that the fighter you want to tie yourself to? Fine. But the truth is, most people won't fucking give a shit when Tank Davis retires. We'll just consistently move on with the fighters that are actually giving us what we want. And unfortunately, he's never done that. Never.